Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the history we all learned, the standard story, might be missing something huge?
Hmm.
Like, what if the so-called center of civilization wasn't always where we think it was? What if it moved around?
Right, like it wasn't just Greece and Rome, then Europe.
Exactly. Peter Frankopan kicks off his book, The Silk Roads, with this really provocative question. Why do we think of the West as the birthplace of civilization? It just stops you in your tracks.
It really does. It's designed to make you immediately question that assumption. And Frankopan isn't just asking rhetorically, he's setting up this major shift in perspective for the whole book.
Yeah, and the timing, 2015, right when everyone's talking about globalization and East-West connections again.
Precisely. So this book isn't just, a dusty history of old trade routes. It's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental rethinking of how the world's been connected for, well, millennia.
It really challenges those started stories we were taught.
It forces you to reconsider where power and innovation and culture actually flourished.
So, in this deep dive, our goal is to really unpack how Frankopan pulls that off, how he makes this compelling case that East and West were deeply intertwined for centuries, shaping each other in ways we often forget.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
It's going to be quite an intellectual journey, I think. It definitely broadens how you see the world taking shape.
Okay, so let's start with the author himself, Peter Frankopan. Who is he? Why should we listen to his take on this?
Well, he's a serious historian, a professor at Oxford University, very well regarded in the field of global history.
So he's got the credentials.
Absolutely. And his work, especially this book, landed right when there was this growing appetite for histories that weren't so focused on Europe, people looking for bigger perspectives as we do with today's global stuff.
Right, a non-Eurocentric view.
Exactly. Frankopan's aim isn't just to list facts. He wants to persuade you to kind of unsettle those comfortable Eurocentric ideas many of us absorbed
How does he do that?
by showing the incredible impact of all this movement back and forth across Eurasia, trade, ideas, people, even conflict. He reveals this history that's way more interconnected than the standard narrative allows.
And it covers a huge sweep of time, right?
Oh, yeah. Ancient times, medieval period, right up to the modern era. And he uses the Silk Roads as this connecting thread, this network that didn't just move goods, but spread cultures, transformed economies.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about mathematics or medicine. So much foundational knowledge flowed from India and Persia into the Islamic Golden Age, and then, often much later, it made its way into Europe, things we take for granted. Frankopan highlights that transmission.
That really shifts the focus. And yet the book itself feels quite accessible, doesn't it? It's not just for academics.
No, definitely not. While scholars obviously engage with it, he writes in a way that pulls in anyone interested in history, especially if you want something beyond the usual Western focus.
So if you're curious about international relations, cultural exchange, that sort of thing.
It's a fantastic read. His writing is clear, engaging. He manages to make this vast, complex story feel very compelling.
Okay, let's talk about how he makes it compelling. His voice, his tone in the writing. What's that like?
It's interesting. It's definitely scholarly, but there's also this real curiosity, almost a sense of wonder. And it's revisionist. Obviously, he's trying to correct the record.
You feel his admiration for some of the Eastern achievements.
You do. It comes through. Maybe not overtly praising all the time, but there's a clear respect and sometimes a gentle pushback against Western assumptions. You sense his excitement in sharing these connections, but also an urgency like we need to understand this history properly.
And that tone, it's strategic, right? It's not just his personality.
Oh, for sure. It's
Yeah.
part of his persuasive strategy. By sounding curious and maybe a little bit awestruck himself, he invites you, the reader, to join him on this journey of discovery.
It makes you feel like you're figuring it out with him rather than just being lectured.
Exactly. It encourages you to question things yourself. Why haven't I thought about it this way before?
So how does he build our trust? I mean, he's making some big claims, challenging long-held views. How does he establish his ethos, his credibility?
Well, first off, his position at Oxford and his background carry weight. But beyond that, it's the sheer depth and breadth of his research that's really convincing.
The sources he uses.
Incredible range. Ancient texts, modern scholarship, primary records from different cultures, and crucially, he's meticulous about citing everything. He shows his workings. You can see the foundation for his arguments.
Does he acknowledge complexities? Or is it just one counter-narrative?
No, that's key. He absolutely acknowledges complexity. He doesn't smooth over contradictions or ignore difficult parts of the history. He'll talk about different interpretations, maybe where the evidence is thin.
And that actually makes him more trustworthy?
Paradoxically, yes. It shows he's not just grinding an axe. He's grappling with the messy reality of the past. Like with the Mongol conquests, he covers the brutal destruction, sure, but also the unexpected ways they facilitated exchange and even administration afterwards. It's nuanced.
Okay, so he builds trust with his credentials and careful research, but he also pulls you in emotionally, doesn't he? The pathos.
Absolutely. He's a fantastic storyteller. He uses really vivid language to paint pictures in your mind.
Like what?
You almost feel like you're there at the dust of a caravan, the noise of a Silk Road city like Samarkand. He describes these moments of incredible cultural achievement, Baghdad's libraries, Buddhist art, but also the devastating events like how the plague spread along these same routes.
So it creates this mix of awe, but also maybe sympathy or concern?
Definitely. Awe at the scale and richness of it all, sympathy for the human struggles, and a real curiosity to understand how these vast connections worked.
And you mentioned earlier he connects it to today.
Yes, that's another layer of the pathos, I think.
Hmm.
He subtly links these historical patterns to our own time. Competition over resources, the dynamics of East-West relations.
So it doesn't feel like ancient history is sealed off from us.
Not at all. He makes you feel its relevance. It taps into contemporary anxieties about globalization, power shifts. It makes you reflect, maybe even feel a bit concerned about repeating old patterns. It feels urgent.
All right, so we have the credibility, ethos, the emotional connection, pathos. What about the logic, the logos, the actual argument?
This is where the book is just rock solid. He builds his case very systematically. It's packed with facts, but organized logically.
Facts.
Trade volumes, details of military campaigns, migration patterns, diplomatic missions. He uses maps effectively, cites statistics, draws on archaeological evidence. Every claim feels backed up. It's intellectually rigorous.
So it's not just sweeping statements.
Not at all. He traces cause and effect very carefully. How did this interaction lead to that outcome? How did events in Central Asia impact Europe or China? He establishes clear chains of consequence.
It sounds quite demanding intellectually.
It is, in the best way. It requires you to follow these complex connections across huge spans of time and space. But that's what makes the argument so powerful, showing how these Silk Roads were truly the world's central nervous system for centuries. It really makes you think.
Yeah, it really does. And for those seeking deeper reflection and rational thought inspired by book analysis like this, remember you can explore mindful moments on our YouTube channel. They offer unique AI-powered insights that dive even further into complex themes.
That's a good point. The kind of thinking Frankopan sparks really benefits from that deeper dive.
Okay, let's talk about his writing style itself, the language he uses.
It's quite masterful, actually. It's formal, as you'd expect from a historian, but it's very clear and avoids dense academic jargon. He uses these really evocative phrases.
Like crossroads of civilization.
Exactly, or sprawling empires, things that paint a picture. And he uses metaphors really effectively, the Silk Roads, as a web or a bridge, constantly reinforcing that core idea of connection.
How does he structure the book to handle such a massive story?
That's crucial. He uses a kind of chronological spatial approach. He moves through time, ancient, medieval, modern, but within each period, he often focuses on key places or turning points along the routes.
So like a chapter on Baghdad, then maybe one on Venice later on?
Sort of, yeah. Or focusing on the rise of Islam or the Mongol expansion or the age of European exploration, always through the lens of how it relates to this Central Eurasian network. It keeps the vastness manageable.
Does he use contrast?
Oh, yes, very effectively. He'll juxtapose the fortunes of different regions, maybe highlighting Central Asia's vibrancy when Europe was less developed, and then showing how things shifted later. It really underscores how history isn't a straight line, how power and influence ebb and flow.
It challenges that idea of inevitable Western dominance.
Absolutely. He also uses rhetorical questions, like that one we started with, to make you actively question assumptions. And sometimes there's a subtle irony, pointing out how the West often adopted Eastern ideas without giving full credit.
And throughout all this, he maintains respect for the different cultures involved.
Yes, that's very important. He avoids stereotypes, tries to present these societies on their own terms. There's a real cultural sensitivity woven through the narrative.
So putting it all together, how effective is the book overall? Does he achieve his goal of reframing history?
I'd say overwhelmingly yes. His main argument is incredibly persuasive, very well supported, It genuinely makes you rethink those standard narratives.
Are there any downsides? Is it challenging for readers?
Well, the sheer amount of information, names, dates, places can be a bit dense at times, especially if you're not already familiar with some of the history. But generally, his writing style and structure keep it engaging.
And is his approach fair? Does he present the evidence balancedly?
I think so. He's careful with his sources. He acknowledges debate where it exists. He doesn't really sensationalize things. He's upfront about the limits of what we can know for sure.
Yeah.
It feels like a responsible, scholarly work, even while making a bold argument.
He's not just cherry-picking evidence to fit his thesis.
No, it feels much more comprehensive than that. He draws on a wide range of reputable material.
What about the scope? Does he manage to cover everything?
Well, the sophistication partly lies in how many perspectives he does bring in European, Middle Eastern, Central Asian, Chinese. He really highlights the tensions that drive history trade versus conflict, openness versus isolation. But inevitably, in a book covering millennia and continents, some areas get less attention than others.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of such a huge synthesis.
Understandable. It's a massive undertaking.
Huge.
So to sort of wrap up the main impact, the Silk Roads really succeeds in shifting our focus, putting that East-West connection right at the center of how global civilization developed.
It absolutely does. It's not just informative. It genuinely prompts you to critically re-examine the history you thought you knew.
It sparks dialogue, deepens understanding. It shows how tangled and interconnected world history actually is.
It's a powerful reminder of that interconnectedness, past and present.
And again, if you want to continue exploring these kinds of big ideas and get more AI-driven book analysis, do check out Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel and explore our other podcasts too.
Great resources for continued thinking.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If these Silk Roads really were the world's arteries for so long, carrying everything from silk to ideas to religions, how much of our world today is still shaped by those ancient flows? And maybe more importantly, what other crucial centers or connections are we still overlooking right now?
That's a really potent question. Makes you wonder what histories are being written or unwritten today.
Definitely something to think about.
Okay, if you want the full breakdown, click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary.
And please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.
Share this deep dive with anyone else who loves to think about history in new ways.
And if you're inspired to read it yourself, consider purchasing The Silk Roads using the link we've provided.
Most importantly, keep asking questions. Keep thinking critically about the stories we inherit about the past.